In a time of turmoil and injustice, the world cries out for the opinion of yet another white guy. Hello, YouTube. This is Peter with you once again. I want to talk about police reform, but at the same time, I recognize that much has already been said on the subject and has been said better than I could say it. So there's a part of me that would just want to rickroll you all with some NWA and drop the mic. Nonetheless, I do have a few thoughts that I thought were relevant. First of all, I don't think that the average middle-class white person from rural or suburban America really understands how other people experience the police, especially if you are a person of color, live in an urban area, and or are poor. What I think the experience of the police for the average middle-class white person is goes a little something like this. Ma'am, do you know why I pulled you over today? Well, golly, officer, I guess I was going a little fast. Yes, ma'am, you were going 55 in a 30. Well, you see, officer, I was just making potato salad for the barbecue, and I guess I lost track of time, and then I started rushing. All right, ma'am, this time I'm going to give you a warning. However, I must also warn you that one of your brake lights is out, your tail light is out, one of your turn signals is out, your headlight is broken, and also your license is invalid, and you don't have insurance or registration on this car. So I'm going to have to give you a warning on those things too. Also, there is a felony warrant out for you in 7 states. You really gotta talk to your lawyer and get that taken care of. Oh golly, officer, I'm so sorry. You know, my husband normally takes care of the car things, and I called my lawyer and he was supposed to get those murder charges dropped, but I guess he hasn't. You know how men are. They don't take care of things, officer. But thanks for the warning. Also, ma'am, could you please stop texting and driving? Oh yes, officer. I'm sure gonna drive slower and stop texting. All right, ma'am, you have a good day. It's amazing what rarely having to deal with the police and being treated with polite courtesy when you do deal with the police will do for your opinion of the police. For many communities, though, their experience of the police is more akin to that of an occupying army that is allowed to brutalize and even murder them with impunity. It's interesting to juxtapose the way in which armed white protesters complaining about not being able to get a haircut are treated compared to people protesting the police. There's a lot more that can and has been said about how we've arrived at where we're at now and the problems that we need to address. But I want to talk about one of my own core political principles that I think is relevant to this discussion, because it's one of the main reasons why I could be considered a liberal instead of a conservative. And the principle is this. In any complex and large-scale society, you are going to have social problems. And you have 3 choices in dealing with those problems. You are going to pay, or you're going to pay, or you're going to pay. You can either pay to address the roots of social problems. You can pay to address the symptoms of social problems, the second-order problems that stem from them, such as crime. Or you can pay in the social consequences when these problems metastasize. Conservatives and Republicans would have us believe that there is a 4th way, a way in which we do not have to pay to address our social problems. In reality, what they're offering is more police, more prisons, more crime, and more consequences as a way of addressing our social problems rather than trying to deal with them at the root. This idea of defunding the police, as dubious from a marketing point of view as that slogan may be, is about redirecting our efforts and our resources towards addressing the root causes of social problems instead of trying to deal with everything through police and prisons and other heavy-handed tactics that have turned parts of our society into virtual police states with consequences that we see. Now, this is the part of the video where I have to give the obligatory riots are bad message and so on. But personally, I used to work at one of these big box retail stores about 15 years ago. And if people came into my store to loot the place, do you know what I would do? I would say, "Sir, would you like some help bringing that television to your car? Perhaps you would like this surround sound system to go with your television. Oh, and you're definitely going to want one of these new Ultra 4K Blu-ray players. It will look beautiful on this new television of yours. Oh, pay for it? Pay for that? Well, I'm not a cashier, so I'm not really responsible for making people pay for these things." But in all seriousness, you have white people freaking out over riots and looting of places like Target. Oh no, not the Target. Will someone please think of the multinational corporate retail chain? The honest truth is that this is the third way in which societies pay for their unaddressed problems. That these problems metastasize into something worse, into riots, into revolutions, into electing demagogues. And often when we attempt to treat social problems only through their symptoms, through police, through prisons, that it accelerates the third level of paying for our problems. We attempted to treat, or should I say conservatives, have attempted to treat the problem of lack of economic opportunity amongst so-called working-class white people by redirecting their frustration into scapegoats, into blaming the liberals, into blaming immigrants, into blaming other minority groups. And what happens is they vomit up a demagogue like Donald Trump. And when he's running for election, all the conservatives say, "Oh, he's terrible, we denounce him." And then the moment he gets in power, they all fall in line to him and lick his boots. But that has come as a consequence of attempting to deal with the symptoms of the economic despair in parts of America through scapegoating rather than trying to address the causes. We as a society collectively decided that the way in which we would deal with communities with deep-rooted problems was to attempt to police and incarcerate our way out of those problems, to create a war on drugs based on incarceration rather than treatment. And guess what? It didn't work. We are long overdue for a completely different approach. Now, I realize that there are few things white people hate more than saying anything that might imply that they're somehow racist, but I can't help but feel that the way in which we have attempted to deal with the problems of communities of color through police and incarceration would never be tolerated within white communities. When white people get hooked on opiates, suddenly we need treatment, not prisons. But when communities of color had drug problems, we need to get tough on crime, have 3 strikes you're out rules. We need more police. We need no-knock warrants for the police. Anything to stop the bad, scary criminals. And I think that the media played a major part in creating this culture of fear that permitted middle-class white people to look down on these communities and to fear them and to believe that the solution was these tactics based on law enforcement as the solution to the problem. When white people vote for a manifestly unqualified demagogue as a protest, as a way of trying to blow up the whole system, we start hand-wringing and asking ourselves, how come we have ignored working-class white people? And yet at the same time, we're baffled by how people could loot a Target or riot, burn down a police station. Again, you're going to pay, or you're going to pay, or you're going to pay. We have a choice in how we address our social problems. We can address them at the causes of the problems, at the root, or we can try to address the symptoms, which is what we have consistently done by trying to use police and incarceration and neglect. And what does it really get us? It makes the problems worse. One thing that needs to happen is that there are a lot of people who need to stop fooling themselves about whether or not they're going to pay to address social problems. They already are. You are already paying for more police, for more prisons. You are already paying the costs through crime. Do you want to continue to try and solve social problems that way? Because it's not working. Because it's fostering rage and resentment that boils over into things like riots. This belief that you can somehow shirk dealing with the problems, that paying for social problems in other ways isn't actually paying for problems, as conservatives would have you believe. That's simply not the case. So if we are going to deal with our social problems one way or the other, what's the best way to go about it? How about we invest in dealing with the causes of social problems instead of trying to treat the symptoms? In which case, why don't we shift some resources and defund the police?